Hi, my name is Jacob Roberts. This is my Eisenhower Matrix project on staff training for prioritizing tasks. This has been designed for BCBAs or other leadership positions as they tend to have a lot more on their plate in terms of tasks. As they have clients, they have to delegate the tasks for those clients to staff, and I believe this matrix would be very beneficial for a BCBA to complete and maintain. So here we go on to our next slide. All right, so onto the slide, we just have the main objectives and pretty much a template of what we will be discussing today. So up first, we have the areas of interest within the matrix. We'll do an overview of the training. I'm going to talk about some of the challenges that we may encounter, the presence of the matrix in the real world. I have a personal activity planned, and then just a list of extended resources, and just an overall summarization of what the training included. I have a slide dedicated for the frequently asked questions within the matrix, my references, and then just I would open this up for a Q&A in the event this was a live training. Alrighty, so let's just jump right into the overview of what the training will be, because before we begin the actual training, it's good to know what the training is about rather than just going right into it. So there is a 2x2 diagram. It's one big box with a T in the middle of it, going from the top and the bottom of the line to the sides. So it creates 4 equal zones. These zones I refer to as the domains. So within these domains, we have the top 2 and the bottom 2. And just scattered throughout these, they are categorized as important and urgent, would be one box. Another box is important but not urgent. Another is urgent but not important. And the other last one is if it's not urgent or not important. So these are the 4 domains. Some may ask why it's important to have time management. So the importance of time management skills while being professionals is crucial. A BCBA, like I mentioned earlier, could have 7 to 8 clients, and being able to manage your time to where you're putting equal quality services, equal amount of hours, and with each client is super important. This would restrain from future bias, having quote unquote favorites, and that is just a messy area. Um, we work with caregivers, so the clients, the staff, and we have to juggle all 3 rapport and relationships with those. So having important time management skills just equals your optimal efficiency rates as well, and building the rapport with those important people in our lives. All right, so this is just the areas of interest, aka those domains. So we have the urgent and important is in that top left, the important but not urgent is our top right, urgent but not important is bottom left, and the neither urgent or important is that bottom right zone. So as you can see here, that top left will be those top priority tasks. We need to get those done as soon as possible. The top right would be decide when you need to have this done by, because it is important, but it's not due by end of day, or it's not due within the hour, or any of those types of things. Scheduling your time to complete this to meet that made deadline is super important for this. We have the bottom left would be think about other individuals who could help you complete this, and a big one is delegating it if possible. The way I see this happen in my practice is with those BCBAs, they have student BCBAs who are just BCBAs in training. They do not have their credentialing yet, but they're just students. So delegating those tasks to those students would be great for your time management and great for them to build up the skills that they'll need to be a BCBA themselves one day. And then we have that bottom right is going to just be those delete it. Or you can keep it into the little I love this diagram, as it has the I can do this if I have free time, because getting that is fun, and it is important to have those things we can still do that we enjoy to do within our job, but it's not like urgent or important. And I think it's really good, and that naturally does promote that work-life balance that we all would love to have. Alrighty, so up next are some of the possible challenges. So while deciphering your priority within the current task assignments, that within itself is hard. It's very difficult to just be able to assume we will be easily able to look at a task, assign it to a domain. Look at a task, assign it to a domain. Some of them are tricky, so a way to decipher through that would be to analyze those due dates. Analyze how much time it will take for you to finish. I have this snowball method that I actually personally use. It essentially is if I'm contemplated between which task I need to complete first, I essentially get those shorter ones out of the way. When you're building a snowball or building a snowman, you start small and you keep working and building on building on building and building. With that, I think it comes really helpful as a tool because I will complete those little tasks, complete the little task, and eventually I'll get to that big task and get it all done. So developing the due dates, if it is not specified, is a challenge. So conversing with those colleagues of those appropriate individuals who assign the tasks to you, or if you are the person who just has the task, you could just converse and think on it of your own. Like, when would be an ideal time? Like, as mentioned on the slide, it would be nice if this was done by deadline, or something similar like that. So task overload, this is also a big challenge. If you have multiple tasks in each domain and you're like, oh my gosh, I don't even know where to start, I am overwhelmed. Being communicative is super important to prevent burnout. You could also mention of decreasing your caseload size, and if you are in that supervisory role where you have apprentices, colleagues, or students, use them. They're a support system to you as well. Okay, so this is the Eisenhower matrix in the real world. The study was done for effective time management strategies. The overall summary, the takeaway, is that time equals valuable assets to the human race. We value our time and we do not want it to be taken advantage of or utilized incorrectly. It can cause distress when decision support systems are not accessible. Developing and implementing strategies that work for you decrease rates of procrastination, inability to achieve long-term and short-term goals, and a permanent lack of comprehension of time. So the overall goal of the study was to identify pros and cons of time management and identify if the intervention of the Eisenhower matrix is actually effective. The overall findings was that the Eisenhower matrix does help make in-the-moment decisions when faced with prioritizing and completing tasks. And an increase in the moment decision making would lead to more time spent working on tasks rather than deciding which task to do. So this is another study related to self-care in the real world. So study on self-care strategies for professionals in applied behavior analysis. So the overall summary for this one was that engaging in self-care can be done in many ways, and it is something that is a concern to the field of applied behavior analysis, as professionals are consistently experiencing that burnout, leading to increased intentions to quit. So when we proactively address these concerns, self-care prioritizing can play a significant role in these emotions and experiences leading to that intent to quit. This is where that Eisenhower matrix comes into play. This would be a very good proactive strategy to avoid these unwanted emotions. So the overall goal was to identify relevant areas of self-care that relate to applied behavior analysis. The goal was to identify those of professional support, professional development, life balance, cognitive awareness, and a daily balance. The overall findings were that self-care was related to work-life balance, and it led to an increased quality of services being provided, lower retention rates, lower burnout, higher work engagement, and much higher productivity. All right, so now I have a little activity for the training. The essential is that we all get our own piece of paper out and make our own matrix, and we make it as listed on the slide. So we have the urgent, not urgent, important, and unimportant zones. So here's the activity. I will be listing off a few of the potential tasks one may have as a behavior analyst. So we have the first one is to make new first then boards, as current ones are laminated, but the lamination is coming off a little at the end. Notify a caregiver of a low intensity novel behavior observed today. Begin treatment plan development as it's due by end of week. Schedule RBT annual reviews for the month. Respond to caregivers' email requesting to set up a meeting with you. Respond to a high-intensity crisis behavior from a client that is occurring. Help plan Culture Week for the client or for the clinic spirit days. Create an updated staff cleaning chores for the upcoming month, and it is 2 days left in the current month. So those are just a few tasks, and truth be told, everyone may put them in different domains, but the completion of that activity is super cool to be able to see the zones. So once we have those filled out, you can pause the video if you are still assigning them into those zones that you would think. But the way this would work is that we complete that top right or top left box first, because those are urgent and important. Once that is empty, then we can move through onto one of our other domains that we reckon is more important or urgent. You could jump to the important or not urgent, or you could jump to the urgent and unimportant. You kind of analyze those two and decide which one is best for you. However, typically would be the more urgent ones, as that urgent typically means time zones and times, so that would be really crucial to hit those deadlines. All right, and here's just a list of some resources if you would be open to needing or wanting them. We have the contact for the Eisenhower Matrix creators' email and the actual website that they have produced. All right, so this concludes our training. So the overall takeaways is that, like, why is time management important? It directly has an impact on the quality of treatment we're providing, the retention rates of our staff, and it naturally does promote that work-life balance. The 4 domains are also important that we have discussed. That is just the relation again of the urgent, important, not important zones. And the overall self-care, I just have added a few quotes to reminisce on this of the you can't love someone without loving yourself. I've heard that quote before, and that goes for the same way of we love our careers. We are all typically very passionate in this field, and we can't provide that passion that we have in terms of quality of service if we're not really loving ourselves outside of work. That leads right into our next quote of you can't pour from an empty glass. If you do not keep your own glass full, how are you expected to pour into others? And that is a big part of our job. So maintaining the utilization of the matrix is key. Consistently updating tasks, deleting them as you complete them is highly recommended, so you naturally keep the matrix in working. So here's just the frequently asked questions. This is a link from the website itself, and they answer a lot of the frequently asked questions themselves. It's a very good resource if you're wanting to get more information on this. As mentioned on the slide, this is just where I would open the floor to address any questions, comments, or concerns. And here's my references. Thank you guys so much for listening, and I hope you learned a thing or two, or you can at least just take one thing away from this to improve your overall time management skills. Thank you so much for your time.